So this is why it's nearly impossible to find the source of a river, to the point where I think it's almost a paradox. Because, and before I get into it, it's actually really easy to test yourself. Just go in your neighborhood or to a state park or whatever, find a stream, and just start following that stream until you find the source of it. It's got to be somewhere, right? Well, pretty quickly, you're probably not even going to walk 500 feet before you start realizing how much of a paradox this is. Because you're going to get to a point where the stream, there's a fork. And so which one is the stream? Well, it's only natural to pick whichever one has the most water. Right? Okay, pick the one that has the most water. Then what about when you get to two where they have almost equal amount of water? Okay, pick whichever one you like. What if you get to a pond? Are you going to go around in circles around that pond until you pick a stream you like? It's starting to sound really arbitrary, isn't it, if you're deciding what counts as that stream. So you might say, okay, well, the stream just starts at that pond. Well, it's still arbitrary because you still pick the stream from many, and it's not the source because the pond is fed by streams. So first, we're going to see the problem with that. We're going to do the Nile, which is a very famous river, and okay, well, the Nile feeds into the Mediterranean, and you follow it up like this. I'm just going to go out a little bit. Oh, come on, I didn't want to do that. Okay, it's pretty much agreed upon. Follows a general course like this through the desert, but then you get to Khartoum. And this is where the first part of the paradox sits. So most people say, okay, we'll pick the one with the most water flowing in it. Okay, well, let's pick the Blue Nile. That's going to take us, the Blue Nile, by the way, has about 80% of the Nile's water. So that takes us only to here, to a lake. And then this lake is fed by God only knows how many rivers and streams. So which one are you going to pick? And it's not to mention the next problem with that. Yes, the Blue Nile has the most water, but the Blue Nile is nowhere near as long as the White Nile. So the Nile starts here and flows here, even though the White Nile starts here. So that's why most people consider the headwater of the Nile to be the White Nile, despite the fact that the Blue Nile feeds more water. It's just because the Blue Nile is short. Okay, let's pick the White Nile. See, we're already really arbitrary here. So we're going to follow the White Nile down through here. And then we get to Lake Albert. And Lake Albert is also fed by many, many rivers and streams. But the generally agreed upon one, because it's the biggest one, is the Victoria Nile, which comes from Lake Victoria. And here is the problem. The biggest problem yet. Which one of these major rivers and streams that, hundreds and if not thousands of them that feed this lake, is the source of the Nile? You can't just pick one. So most people say the source of the Nile is Lake Victoria, but that makes no sense because the lake is not the source of it, because it's being fed by rivers. So those rivers are the source of the Nile, but to get a specific point where the source of the Nile is, you have to pick one of those rivers, but if you pick one, it's arbitrary. Which is precisely why this is the paradox. There is no such thing as the source of a river. Its source is thousands of them. And there is no one. People say pick the largest source. Okay, if we pick the largest source, we're going to go back to this lake in Ethiopia, even though it's only about halfway up the Nile. But if we pick the longest point, we don't even know where that is. Same thing with the Amazon. The Amazon, they don't even know where the source is yet. For the longest time, they thought it was somewhere here in Peru, And then they actually discovered that it was down, I don't even know where the lake is. It was farther south than they thought, in a totally different lake. It's to the point where we don't even know if the Amazon or the Nile River is longer. Very, very few rivers have a clear source. So it is a paradox finding the origin of a river. Let's take the Mississippi River. Okay. Beginning of the Mississippi. This is the supposed source of the Mississippi River, which flows into this lake, which flows into a bunch of other lakes, which eventually turns into the Mississippi River, right? Right? Well, look at all these streams. Why is this stream the source of the... Look, this is the Mississippi River. How come the Mississippi River is this stream as opposed to this stream or this stream? Who decided that? Or how come we made the Mississippi River start here when the Missouri River begins all the way out here? So really it should be going like this. The Missouri River goes way farther west and north. So that is what I call the river paradox, because it is impossible to find the source of a river. It is impossible to find the source of a stream. Very few rivers or streams will have a clear single source. Some do. Some do, like, for example, I'm trying to think of an example. What is an example? Oh. Well, there's the St. Lawrence River. Everyone agrees that the source is Lake Ontario. But no, it really isn't, because the Niagara River feeds Lake Ontario. So you're going to keep on going endlessly. There is no definitive source. I think of any river. I think you're never going to find a source for any river. I can't even think of any off the top of my head where there is a clear source, because there isn't. I don't think they exist. So yeah, that's the river paradox. I call it the river paradox because you cannot possibly and reasonably find the definitive source of a river. You could put the paradox, you could put that to the test yourself. Like, go to a state park, go to a park or whatever, and pick a stream and try to follow it. And you're going to run into this problem. You're going to get basically nowhere before you run into this problem. And that is why you cannot find the source of a river without making it extremely, extremely arbitrary and doesn't really make sense.